So coherence is being able to fully be aligned between your mind, body, and your soul, and to be able to have clear communication between what you think is good for you and knowing what is good for you. And if you are in coherence, and you are in coherence also with the universe, where you just allow things to be the way they're going to be, you do your best and you let things flow, and you know that the best possible result is going to be the best possible outcome for you, then I think that that's like the best way to really go about life.
Your network is your net worth. Come listen to some of the most successful people I know share invaluable knowledge, stories, and advice in real estate, business, and beyond. This is Weiss Advice. Whether you want to take your business or personal life to the next level, look no further. Welcome back to Weiss Advice. I am your host, Yona Weiss, and with me today, I am joined by Chloé Cohen, otherwise known as Chloé Chaya Cohen. You got to get that guttural Chaya in there. But we are so blessed to be joined by you today. I appreciate you taking the time. And how you doing today?
Good, thank God. Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited for this.
Yeah, I mean, you sound excited, that's for sure. A little background. I'd love to give a little context to our listeners. Who's our guest today? So you can, just join in on the listen in, on our conversation. But Chloé is a real estate investor. She's also a PropTech advisor. So she started a company called BRIQ, which is spelled BRIQ, which is a marketing and really, tech consultancy for real estate and tech investors, companies. She's an advisory to them on technologies and marketing. And that's pretty cool that she has that, startup in her. And she has an interesting background as well, right? You came from the marketing background and you've done a lot of things. Hopefully we'll get to some of those things before. And she's recently started a YouTube channel called HI by Chloé. So HI like AI, like artificial intelligence, but this is human intelligence. So this is really cool. I'm excited to talk to her a little bit about that today. And what else can I say? She's a spiritual person, which I love. We had a great conversation not long ago on her podcast. And I said, hey, we got to continue this conversation and take it a little direction. So thanks again for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
All right. My first question to you is, right, as a woman in real estate, obviously, I've found that it's kind of, and it's no surprise that you're a little bit of a minority when it comes to investing. How do you approach that? Because you're a strong woman, right? You're obviously coming from it with a lot of passion. How do you relate to being kind of like the minority in the room?
Okay, well, that is such a great question. And it comes up a lot. And it's not just in real estate, but it's also in the tech world that women are kind of the minority. It comes from cultural, from societal, from when we're a young age, when we were groomed not to necessarily go for certain jobs other than, over other jobs. But what I've found is that I am left out sometimes. In other words, when the boys want to go after, even if I'm a board member, if they want to go after for a cigar and whiskey, sometimes they don't include me. But I've pretty much built myself and have spoken up enough to be like, guys, I love whiskey too. And so since then I've been able to break down some barriers. So there is going to be some sort of, there is a lot of barrier to entry, and there's a lot of growth that still needs to happen in that area. But in terms of how I handle it, the best advice I've ever had was when I was younger, I would try to be like the guys, right? So I would go with them and entertain them in the way that they want to be entertained. And when I say entertain, I mean like taking clients out to certain places and things of that nature. And now as I've developed more in my femininity, I realized that my power is my femininity. And a feminine power is, like receiving, right? When you meditate and you pray, that's a very masculine trait. And when you receive, it's a very feminine trait. And by being able to really encompass my full femininity, I've actually been able to do and grow so much faster than even some of my male counterparts that could have surpassed me till now. So in the beginning, my trajectory was slower because no one actually tried to mentor me, took me under their wing. They just assumed, oh, you're going to get married and have kids soon, so you're not going to be in the game anymore. So they didn't want to waste time investing in me. But now, as I've caught up to them, and they see, you know, BRIQ, for example,
Yeah.
is completely because of my femininity.
So what do you
Uh,
mean by that? Let's take that for a second, because that started right from somewhere, right? You were doing marketing, you were doing consulting, and then you just decided to start your own company. So what was that about?
okay. So how do you start your own company? I've gotten that question so many times. How do you do it? I just do it head first. And I would rather learn on the job, and I'm not afraid of failure. I don't see any other alternative. Like, what are you gonna like? What's gonna happen? Am I gonna be homeless? Am I gonna starve? I mean, you know. So I kind of just jump into things head first. But the way I meant that BRIQ has a very feminine aspect to it is that instead of doing what some when I say masculine and feminine, first of all, I don't mean male and female. So I'm not being a sexist, opposite misogynist. I'm not
No, it's good you cleared
being,
that up, because people hear things, and
yeah,
they relate to it how they understand things. But I appreciate you bringing that up, because we've spoken about this, and masculine and feminine are two forces in the world that all of us have, right?
absolutely.
Males and females. Now, I'm not getting into transgender stuff here or anything like that.
Absolutely. I mean, I actually believe that our souls are androgynous, and I think that masculine and feminine also falls into even like quantum physics. I mean, there's two opposites. It's the polarity of things, and
Yeah.
so I don't mean lipstick and a hammer. We're talking about, let's say, asking and receiving. Asking is masculine, receiving is feminine. And the more that you become aware of these energies in the world, and the more that you tap into it, the more control you actually have, and the more you're able to really ascend beyond the societal's norms of what's male and female,
Mm-hmm. Right. So
beyond gender.
yeah, for sure. So you were saying, you're leading into that's how BRIQ was came to be.
Right. So, okay. So with BRIQ, so what happens with BRIQ is, first of all, I don't do a lot of lead gen with BRIQ. I allow people to find us and who needs us and seek us out. Secondly, we come in and do something that's very feminine. We look around, and I have males on my team too, but we look around and we see every single aspect. Like, we pilot every single software that's on the market. We pilot every single new piece of AI, whether it's hardware, software, across the spectrum. And then when we meet with a client, we listen to all of their needs, we take it in, we digest it, then we work through it, and we decide, you know what, you need to use this from this, and this from that, and this piece with that piece, and this with this, and this, and this, and this connects this way. And you bring it all together into a perfect picture,
Mm-hmm.
when most people would just say, okay, I just need, this virtual doorman for this building. Chloé, I just need to increase my NOI. And that's it. They don't know anything other than that. And I'm able to then pull all the pieces together, which is a very, spaghetti brain type
Yeah,
of thing.
that is, and it takes a lot of research and talent to be able to develop that and implement that for different clients, right? Who are your typical people that you work with typically? They're in the real estate industry, but are they commercial owners? Are they residential? What type of property managers?
So majority of my clients are actually residential, but the people that really could benefit the most are commercial, like offices. But I do work with a lot of developers, so residential developers that are selling out buildings. And so I work with the brokerage and with the developer to create a marketing plan that is beyond the typical, let's charge you $5 million to make very pretty signs and wrap the building with this art piece and spend this much of money on just marketing collateral. We work with them to use data science and understand the people that are in the vicinity and really understand who the buyers are.
Mm-hmm.
It's called like a customer journey, and it falls under the category of data science. And by being able to truly understand it, we spend a lot less money on the actual marketing campaigns, because we are able to directly target who the buyer or the end user is.
Okay, no, that's great. Well, let me ask you also. I mean, it's something we spoke about before, but I want to get into a little bit more now. Mindset. We talked about this a lot in our previous conversation. But for you, like, what is when you're going into a deal, when you're going into opportunity, what helps you the most to get into the right frame of mind? And I think this is very helpful for all of us, because we all struggle with this, and each person has different techniques. So it's great to hear from you. Like, what's that like for you?
So That is an amazing question. And the answer is intuition and coherence. Intuition is when you know in your heart what is right and what's wrong. And many, many times, the biggest deals I've ever closed, I always knew I was going to close it. I just knew. And I would argue that that intuition comes from God. It's God's direction, it's the universe guiding you along your path. But sometimes it's hard to know your intuition. And in that case, coherence, which actually leads to intuition, is important. So, coherence is being able to fully be aligned between your mind, body, and your soul, and to be able to have clear communication between what you think is good for you and knowing what is good for you. And if you are in coherence, and you are in coherence also with the universe, where you just allow things to be the way they're going to be. You do your best and you let things flow, and you know that the best possible result is going to be the best possible outcome for you. Then I think that that's like the best way to really go about life. Because people think they need to prepare more or study more or do some more due diligence. Yes, you could do all of that, but if you have that last minute, I say it's, whether it's a meditation, a prayer, or just get into flow. It could be grounding, EFT tapping, it could be meditation, it could be whatever it is that you want it to be.
Right.
But using spirituality actually helps me tremendously in business.
And so a lot of people, are doing these kind of things. Like, people relate to like the think and grow rich type mentality, where you're really kind of, putting those thoughts into your consciousness actively. And maybe give me, do you have like an example or a story or something? I'm just curious. We didn't discuss this beforehand, so I may be putting you on the spot, but like something that just kind of illustrates something that happened to you, where you're just in a new place, or you're in a new deal, or you're in something that you just like went with it and it came out, worked out for the good.
Very interesting, because two stories come to mind. But also, I just want to point out, Think and Grow Rich is not just cognitive. It is very spiritual. People don't realize that. It's not just a thought. They're actually you're putting it out into your consciousness, which means you're trying to go from your prefrontal cortex to your limbic brain. That means you're getting into your subconscious, and you're very likely tapping into your universal flow. So it's not that not spiritual. It is pretty spiritual. But what comes to mind, I have actually two quick stories. Can I tell them? They're
Yeah,
very short.
let's see.
Okay.
Yeah.
So one of them was, I said I needed X amount of dollars to do something. I wanted to start a new venture, and I knew I needed to make some money for that. And so I started to just pray on it. So like, oh, I need this, and nothing was coming. And then I said, you know what? I need to be a lot more clear about this. I took a paper and pen, and I actually created a budget. How much money do I need to allocate for this project? And I think it came down to literally I think it was $12,000, like 1, 2. Not a lot of money, but this is what I needed for this specific project. I circled it. I'm like, this is my budget. The next day, I got a phone call from a for sale by owner that I advised for free, and I helped them sell their house because, I have a big heart. Sometimes it's not a good thing. And he never paid me my commission. And he called me and he said to me, I made some money in the stock market, and I know that I owe you. And so I'm going to pay you $12,000.
Wow.
And
That's
I was just
beautiful.
like, thank you, God. But it was just so funny, because I was like, wow, like when you really, down to the, brass tacks, as they say.
Yeah. And some people will call that a coincidence, but we know better that it's so clear when something like that happens. I mean, it's amazing, because most of the time things like that don't happen for most people. But if you open your eyes to it and you're really conscious of it, and like you said, if you're, looking for it, then you'll find it.
100%. And hindsight is 2020. I think that every single thing in my life, just it makes sense. It makes sense. It makes sense. And sometimes I question what's happening. Why am I, single still? Or why do I not have this or that, or different things that I want? But then I realized you have to come from a place of gratitude and understand that the universe is working in the way that destiny is supposed to play out. And for the people who are listening that don't believe in God and destiny and universe, that's absolutely fine. But there is still a flow that happens, and you can call it coincidence, but if you really start putting the pieces together, the flow makes sense, doesn't it? And so quantum physics kind of backs up why there's a flow, which proves that we can't prove that there is no God. So just maybe. I'm sorry if it went too far there.
You're
Okay.
great. You're great. You're great.
All right. Story number 2. I was walking down the street and I saw a developer with a hard hat looking at a brand new development. This is in New York City. And I look at him and he didn't look like one of the workers. And I immediately knew he must be the developer. And so my stomach kind of did like a little butterfly tumble sauce in my stomach. And I just stood there and looked up at the building. And he saw me looking at the building, and then I saw him, and then I walked over to him and like, wow, like this is such a cool design. And I just started talking to him, and we ended up, staying in touch. And his family and my family have like one community connection or whatever it was. And so we stayed in touch, and I just knew that that was going to be my very first listing. And my very first listing in New York was a condo building, $11 million sellout. And so that's how I started as a real estate agent in 2014 in New York City.
Wow.
And so that was a really cool story. But I knew in my gut, like I can't explain. I just knew that this was right. This was going to be. It was serendipity.
At that moment when you went and and you were looking at that building in New York, you were already interested in being a real estate agent at that point, or it was just something like down the road that came together?
No, I became a real estate agent before that. And so I was looking for my first deal. And usually you start off with a rental, and then maybe you sell a co-op, and then maybe a condo. But I just went straight for the building.
That's awesome. That's a
Yeah,
great story. A great story. So tell me a little bit about this HI, right?
okay.
You're getting high, right? Not getting high, but getting HI, right? With Chloe.
You get high on it, get high in life.
That's right. What's the human intelligence? Obviously, we hear a lot about artificial intelligence. It's something that you've been deeply involved in your industry, advising people different technologies. What's the HI? What's the human intelligence all about?
I think what's going on now in society with the uncertainty, with so many different things, from the health of our nation to the Earth's environment, I think we're looking at things a little bit all wrong. We all see HI, like AI, as this like doomsday or too much reliance on it, and how it's going to take away our jobs. And I love people, and I love spirituality, and I love the fact that we're alive on this earth. And I think that we have, as a society, we're a pretty young country, and we've been going about developing our civilization. And if anybody read the book by Yuval Harari, Homo Sapiens, it talks about how we kind of got to where we are today. It's a very interesting historical look at how we've developed from a primitive to a more sophisticated intelligence. But now we're looking at artificial intelligence as the next step. Like they're going to take us over. Like we're in that matrix. And first of all, we're in God's matrix, not the artificial intelligence matrix. But the war against artificial intelligence is how strong we're going to continue to be humans. And so preserving our humanity is really our next step. So HI is just reminding people like, hey guys, like we're kind of intelligence. We have consciousness, we have speech, we have all this ability to create and to do that
Mhm.
artificial intelligence will not be able to do. And so let's remember and not focus on workaholic, not focus on independence, focus on interdependence, focus on families and community, focus on
Mm.
things that really develop our humanity. And the stronger we are as a humanity, the more our power is against anything that comes against us.
Okay. Yeah,
Like that?
that's very intriguing. With that, I just had another question. Maybe we'll take a little switch because I know we're running out of time. I really
Okay.
want to go on for a long time on this subject. I think it's a great subject, but I want to just kind of take a little turn and just hear a little bit about your real estate investing career over the time, and maybe where you're at right now. Like, what are you doing now? What are you looking for now? And what your plan is.
Okay. Yeah, great. Well, it's been very interesting. It's been a roller coaster for sure. I started out in 2014 as a real estate broker, and very quickly I realized that my marketing and technology background was going to be like pivotal for this industry, because there were so many gaps in the way that things were done, from the rental lease process all the way through to the sales and marketing process. There's a lot of money wasted in real estate, but people don't mind because it is the way it is and it does what it does, and there's no need for change. And that's why I say mostly commercial offices are much more open to tech, because they have a lot more of that financial leeway or room in their budget. And so I did that, and then so that's why I opened up BRIQ. And so I was doing BRIQ and I was running BRIQ, and I had 4 employees, an office in the city, and the company was doing quite well. We had a lot of incredible clients. We were doing such exciting things, deep diving way into data science and tech. And it was awesome. And I was going to start a startup out of BRIQ. But then COVID hit. And so what I realized was when COVID hit, I actually kind of backtrack a little bit. September of 2019, I kind of had a really bad burnout. And I said to myself, what is this? I'm living in New York City in my 2-bedroom apartment. I barely see family. I cannot make time for friends. It's like dating was impossible, not because I didn't have a ton of matches, but because I couldn't find the scheduling to actually make time to meet them and then be calm enough to actually enjoy the time together. So
Yeah.
it was just a disaster after a disaster. And I just said to myself, nothing that actually brings me joy in my life is actually what's in my life. And so I took a look at my life and I said, what works? And I said, okay, most of the money that I'm making right now is not coming from BRIQ because that was going right back into the company. Most of the money that I was making was through Airbnb. And I was like managing over 75 keys of Airbnb. And then I decided to diversify and get out of New York. And I started traveling to LA. I went to Joshua Tree. I went to Tel Aviv. I was in the Midwest a little bit, Kentucky, Indianapolis, Ohio. And I started finding that America has a lot of really great properties and really great cap returns. I
When
was
you
like,
get out of New
wow,
York, the whole
you
world
know, you
opens
actually
up.
think New York is the only place that exists. It's
When
like New
you,
York,
yeah,
San Francisco, LA, Tel Aviv, maybe Miami a little bit, but you never think about it. But America's wonderful. It's beautiful. There's so many great places, and the people are so nice and sweet. It's really wonderful. And so I decided to invest in Kentucky, and I basically opened up a property management company down here. I'm not sure if I'm going to get my license here or not, but I am working on bringing in a lot of investors here, and I manage the deal for them all the way from acquisitions all the way through to the management of it. We are mostly doing multifamily and, you know, 2-family homes, not really single residences. And we are doing like long-term holds, but some of the multifamily is value add, but I am looking to get back into the Airbnb game a little bit. And I have identified 2 locations that I'm going to be going back into. And my goal is to open up a kind of boutique hotel sort of experience, which incorporates like tree houses and a glamping sort of thing. And it's very outdoorsy, like near a lot of hiking. So I think that I'm like when COVID, I don't know if it's going to end, but at some point people are going to start traveling and they're going to travel within America and they're going to want to go to places that are close enough to drive and they're going to want to go to places that have social distancing and want to be in nature. And I think that will be a great way to get people back into nature and connection. So
that's
that's
awesome.
currently where I'm holding in my career.
That's awesome. Yeah, I mean, you mentioned the treehouse thing. That's pretty cool. I actually have someone that we did an interview here. We had on our real estate connections meetup, who was talking about a company called Treehouse and Tree Walkers that she's working with. To a really cool kind of development team. They're doing Airbnb type things, short-term rentals for these tree houses, which is really interesting. Anyways, that's pretty cool. I love the concept. I
Yeah,
think
and
there's
and
a
I took
great
a
market
deer.
for it.
Yeah, and I took a very daring move. I actually moved my butt from New York City to Louisville, Kentucky, and I got here about a month ago. And I want to set up shop, and so I want to, I want to be local, like Kentucky, Indianapolis, and Ohio, and just really be here and see help grow the portfolio.
Well, good for you. It's a very exciting time. I mean, listen, once, like you said before, a lot of people who aren't from New York don't understand this, but if you grew up in New York and you live in New York, you think that New York is everything and there's nothing outside of it. I mean, there is, but it's like there's nothing really in between, like New York and California. There's just like a bunch of farms and whatever. Like people literally think like that, unfortunately. But I'm glad to see that you moved out there, taking some strides, making the right direction work for you. So good luck with that. I want to jump with that into the final 4. These are questions I ask every guest. First question I ask for everyone is, what is the worst job that you ever had?
Oh goodness. I was maybe 14 years old and my neighbor was a dermatologist and I said I wanted to maybe become a PA when I'm older or a doctor. And so I went to help him assist and he did a biopsy and I fainted on the patient.
Oh no.
Yeah. And he said to me, "You'd actually make a great doctor." I said, "Why?" "I fainted." He goes, "Well, at least you got to the point of fainting."
Yeah, I think I'd be out of there well before that point. That's true. That's a great story. So I guess that didn't work out for you too well. Second question, what is a book that you've read that's given you a paradigm shift?
I have to, it's a Jewish book. They actually have a version that's also for people who are not of the Jewish faith. It's called The Garden of Emunah. It actually started my entire spiritual journey. And it really did give me the shift because it made me realize even when I mess up, like it's not your fault. Like, yes, take responsibility, learn what you did wrong and how you can do better. But there's a very spiritual Judaism beyond Kabbalah and stuff of that nature, which is that everything is meant to be, whether it's good and whether it's bad, it's still good. And it really helped me. It shifted my whole life.
Wow. Yeah, I haven't read that one, but I heard about it from other people. Definitely worth looking into. Third question, what is a skill or talent that you'd like to learn?
Wow. Okay, now you got me stumped. A skill or talent I'd like to learn.
That's the advantage of asking people, telling people beforehand what the questions are. But
Yeah, that would be a good one because like nothing is coming to mind. I can tell you my weakness. Like I definitely need to work on consistency and scheduling. Like I tend to over schedule myself and to want to do everything and to learn how to delegate better. That's something. But an actual skill, I mean, right now I'm learning how to do EFT tapping. So I'm actually getting certified in it. So I'm going to be able to teach others how to do it too. And it's this psychology thing. Like you tap and you say these statements, but like these are your like pressure points, and you say it like a certain way, and like you break your subliminal subconscious limiting belief systems, so you're able to like shift yourself from, oh no, this deal's not going to work out, and then immediately you can be like, this deal's going to work out, this deal's going to work out, and you can like kind of get yourself back into it. So it's called EFT tapping.
Very cool. Interesting. Okay, that works. And then the fourth and final question for you is, what does success mean to you?
Having time to do whatever I want to do and like not work if I don't want to work that day and work if I do, and to actually be able to help more people. I'd love to hire people, like a lot more people that need help that people don't believe in, but I would nurture them into their positions and teach them what needs to be learned and stuff of that nature, give opportunity to people.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. That sounds good. Well, bless you. You should be able to do that and succeed with that and helping a lot of people, being successful in everything you do.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Wait, can I just say one thing?
Yeah, of course you can.
Before, when I was talking about my trajectory in my career, there's something I wanted to mention. During the pandemic, a lot of people have fallen apart. And the biggest lesson I learned is to diversify your income stream and to pivot. Just trust and pivot. So Airbnbs fell apart. I was depressed for a month, got back up and went into long term. So just being able to pivot is a very important ability.
Awesome. That is really important. I'm glad you brought that up. Something huge. We've spoken about that a lot, and it is so true for any time, but especially at this time that we're all living in right now. Last and finally, where can people reach you or find you?
So I have an Instagram. It's HI with Chloé. And my YouTube channel is the same link. My website is hihumanity.com. And my website for the real estate marketing is BYBRIQ.com. So it's by BRIQ.com.
Awesome. Thank you again. It's been a pleasure speaking as always, and I hope to speak more again. I hope our audience got a lot of value from this. I for sure did enjoy our conversation. So thanks for coming.
Thank you so much. I hope so too.
And to our listeners, remember, the best advice comes only when you ask. Real quick, I have one question for you. Did you like this episode? If you did, I want to ask you a huge favor. See, the biggest thing that helps this podcast grow and that will spread this message to the whole world is that if you leave a review, a rating, and subscribe to the podcast. What that does is it basically tells the platforms that this podcast is out on is that you like my stuff and I'm doing something right. So take a few seconds out of your day, hit that subscribe button, leave a rating or review. I would be extremely grateful. Also, I want to hear from you guys. So I want to hear some feedback. If you have any questions for future episodes, please find me on LinkedIn, send me a DM, a connection request, Yona Weiss, and I'd love to hear from you.